Did I get everybody in? Good morning, good morning, good morning. I love to watch you morning pour in here on Monday mornings. It makes me happy to spend my Monday mornings with you guys. I don't know about you, but I'm glad you're here. Thanks for showing up. How are we today? We must be living the dream because you guys are really chatty this morning. Cindy's laughing at me. Bonnie's laughing at me, but nobody wants to tell me how they are. That's okay. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. So we are talking about selling new construction today. Let me drop something in the chat for you. I don't know why I always try to minimize myself when I'm the host. It never works. Let's see here. Here we go. I feel like somebody else is trying to get in here. Hang on. All right. I am going to drop the link to oops, that was not what I wanted to drop in there. I was playing around on ChatGPT this morning, and apparently I just copied and pasted a whole ebook for you guys on building new construction. And that's not what I wanted to do. So if you learned anything from me on ChatGPT, I basically used this topic, selling new construction. I went into ChatGPT and I told it to do a couple of things. One, I told it to write me an ebook for consumers on building new construction. I told it to include the details of the process, the timing, and things that they need to look out for. And it spit out this amazing ebook that I now am editing and tweaking and going to print for my team so that when we have new construction buyers, we have a little handy ebook to give to our new construction buyers that walks them through the whole process. So that was super exciting. How many of you have played around with ChatGPT since we talked about it, since I introduced it to you? Anybody have any stories they want to share of what they've done with it? Feel free to unmute yourself and tell me. Not everybody all at once, though, okay?
I've played with it a little bit, but I don't have anything exciting to tell.
Who said that? I missed it. I'm so sorry. I found out my headphones weren't
Dana.
Oh, hi. What did you say?
I said I've used it, but I don't have anything super exciting to tell about it. I've just played with it a little bit.
Sure. Just playing with it just to see what all it does.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I haven't actually used the.
I was amazed at how fast, like once you're in, how fast it really does produce something.
Yeah. Well, if there's not a glitch. So I spent 30 minutes this morning and it kept telling me, I mean, there was definitely glitches all morning long. So I had to keep going out, going back in, refreshing my screen. So if you can get over the initial annoyance of it not working, you can actually get some stuff done in it. But it's just really bogged down. More and more people are learning about it. So that's the other problem too, is it's just harder to get out what you want with it. But I have also been playing a lot with it in terms of refining some of my prompts so that, just giving it better instructions has given me a whole lot better output as well, which I've really liked. And I have a whole folder of stuff that I have just kind of produced with it that now we need to go in and tweak and make it my own voice and, slap some pretty stuff on it. So, okay. So who said that? Anybody have it?
Dana.
Dana, what's up?
Do you use it mostly online or because I've noticed there's an app?
I use it on my phone a lot, just because my phone is always in my hand, and I find on my phone it's not as buggy, and it'll actually produce the response a lot. I don't have to go in and refresh every 100 times. On my computer, I find it's very buggy. On the browser on the computer, I find that it gets hung up a whole lot. So, but I mean, I've used it for hundreds of things since I discovered it, played around with it, took a course on it. So it's just, I'm amazed by what all it can do. That's all. And the other thing I was going to tell you guys too is that you need to think of it more of a conversation. A lot of people just spit in a prompt and expect it to spit out something. If you think of it as a conversation, then you would talk back and forth with it to refine the output. So, for example, when it spits out something for you, your job then is to say, hey, can you rewrite that with a little bit more detail? Can you explain a little bit more on this section? Can you think of it more as a conversation? And the more input you give it going back and forth, the better your result's going to be. Okay. So today we are talking about selling new construction. I know that a lot of you have tons of experience. Some of you have sold lots of new construction homes. Some of you have never sold any new construction. I want you to understand your role as the agent in new construction. I want to help you define how you pick up more new construction clients. I want to help you understand the process. If you're not sure, if you've not really sold a lot of new construction, I want you to understand more about the process. And then I want you just to understand some things to look out for when it comes to selling new construction. Just some kind of things to avoid or things that you should educate yourself about. So first of all, talking about new construction starts at your buyer consultation appointment with your buyer. Okay. And I'm going to say that as gently and as nicely as I can to you, is that if you fail to talk about new construction with your buyer early on in the process, what's going to happen is your buyer is going to go visiting new construction sites without you on a weekend, and then you're going to get completely cut out of the deal. And that happens all the time in Middle Tennessee. There are builders here who will not allow us to represent a buyer if they have stepped foot on that property without you, without your card. If they were just driving around and happened to visit the new construction site, they will absolutely tell you that their marketing is what bought the buyer there and that they don't have to pay you a commission. And so the conversation must start early with your buyer to educate them about the necessity of taking your card with them to the new construction site. It's okay if they don't come with you, and a lot of times, as long as they have your card. But you do need to warn your buyer that if they go visiting new construction sites without you, there's a chance that that builder may not allow you to represent them in that purchase. And that could be a big deal. Okay, we've had agents, when I owned my firm, I had agents who literally were out $20,000, $30,000 worth of commission because the builder claimed that the agent did not come on site with them the first visit, and that once they're entered into their system without an agent, there is no adding an agent later, which is not fair to the consumer. If the consumer wants representation, the builder should respect that, but that's not how they operate. They are shady. I hate to say it, but they make promises to buyers too. Oh, if you don't have an agent, I can throw in extra incentives. I can get a fence built for you. I can give you some more upgrades. You need to make sure on the I see y'all shaking your head, so I know this has happened to you guys too, because it's happened to me. But you need to make sure that you are starting at the consultation appointment with your buyer, explaining to them how new construction is different than all the other houses we're going to look at. And that you need to prepare them for understanding that that site agent does not represent them, does not represent their best interests. The site agent represents the builder. The site agent is educated and trained by the builder. The site agent is there to make sure that the contracts are written to favor the builder. They're written to sell the product that the builder wants to get rid of first. not the lot that's the most desirable or the floor plan that your buyer wants. It's the ones that they want to sell first, right? So you need to make sure you're starting early on with your buyer about how we're going to operate new construction and what they need to do. I would also encourage you, if you know your buyer's in a certain price range and there are new construction builders that are in that price range and your client has even remotely hinted at maybe building new construction, you go to that site first and register your buyer. Because then it doesn't matter what day they go. It doesn't matter if they show up without you. You've already registered that buyer and they already know that you're working with that buyer. Okay. So I highly recommend that you start at the very beginning, making sure that your client understands if they want your representation, then they need to make sure that you are included in the very first visit to that site, or that you go yourself and register your buyer. Okay. The other thing I was going to explain to you is that a lot of people don't understand why they need an agent with new construction, because they feel like they have the site agent who's walking them through the whole thing. They're very familiar with the product. They know how the builder works. They get along with the site agent. So they think, well, what do I need my own agent for? You should be equipped with a quick little handout that's like 10 reasons why you need a realtor when buying new construction. And you could probably come up with 6 of those very quickly if you think about it. So I'm sure if you spend a little time, you can come up with 10 reasons. But think about all the things that could go wrong with buying new construction without an agent. What kind of things could happen? Those are your reasons that people need an agent if they're buying new construction. But you should have some, if you want to increase your new construction business, you should have a list of reasons why someone needs an agent if they're thinking of buying new construction. Those of us that have sold new construction before, I'm sure we could come up with that list with our eyes closed, which is a lot of it is, again, the contracts are not written to favor your buyer. You know, the process is not always easily understood or explained. You know, there are hidden fees and costs that maybe aren't explained to your buyer up front. Navigating the process in and of itself, sometimes you need help. Making selections, sometimes your buyer has terrible choices. They don't have a great eye for design. They don't know what's on trend. That's how we would write it in our collateral. Not that you have bad taste, but that, do you know what's on trend? Are you picking something at the design center that you happen to love, but nobody else is going to love it? Right. And sometimes having an agent can help guide you to making selections that are more on trend, easier to sell in the long run. Right. So think about those things. Brandy, did you have a question, or were you going to say something?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know I was not muted. I apologize.
No. You didn't make any noises.
One thing I was going to tell you, we have a very large builder here in Oklahoma City, and that my people would not have known this is building. I mean, they built a $600,000 home with this builder, and they were only going to give them a 2-hour time slot to pick everything. Right. So I got with them and I told them, I said, this is overwhelming. I'm like, so we went through all the homes that they had. I told them, I said, you need to drive by it. You need to have your brick picked out. You need to have your siding picked out. You need to have the color of your roof picked out, so just little things like that they don't know about. She wouldn't have known that they had only 2 hours. Right. And then, of course, it was during COVID, so they could only have her and one other person. Right. So, just little details like that they probably don't overlook is important. That's a great advice. I agree with you. I just did selections with one of my new construction buyers on Thursday last week, and luckily her builder gives a preview hour, so you get to meet with the designer at the design center to make preliminary selections, or at least to see what your options are, and then you come back for your final design appointment later. The following week or 2 weeks later. If you have questions, you still can have a little time to make those decisions. But I agree with you, especially if it's a semi-custom or custom home at all. Even with a spec home, there are a lot of finishes that you get to select as a buyer that can be very overwhelming. Your hardware, your faucet, your cabinet, the shower head, what type of shower doors you want.
there's a lot of decisions to make, and it can be very overwhelming for people who, you know, don't really know exactly what they want. They just know they want to be new and pretty. So that's where our goal is to help them make those decisions, or to give them more time. Here's a list of things you need to make selections for prior to your little 2-hour appointment that they expect you to build your dream home with, and you have no idea that you had to make all those choices, right? And people don't like making choices under a time crunch. They feel pressured, and sometimes they make the wrong decisions under pressure, right? Very good advice, Brandy. I appreciate you sharing that. So my advice to you, if you want to be more knowledgeable about selling new construction, you need to do your research. You need to gather floor plans, visit the model, build rapport with the site agent, investigate any incentives that they're offering, and what incentives are they, are those incentives changing? Is there a deadline for those incentives? What type of contract do they use? Do they use their own contract? Do they use your state approved contracts? Can you get a copy of it in advance and review it so that you know what it says and what to expect? Gather a list of included features. So what is standard? What comes standard with this particular builder? What is this builder's build process? That's not on my list, but what is their process? Do they collect the deposit at time of contract? Do you have so many days? Do you have to pay for your upgrades in cash prior to? A lot of builders operate that way. You can't just add all your upgrades into the loan. They make you pay 50% of your upgrades at time of selection, and then 50% prior to closing. So you can't just finance that extra $30,000 worth of upgrades you have to pay cash for. You need to know if that's how that builder operates so that you can communicate that to your clients, right? But do your research on the builders that you like. Get to know what models this particular builder has, what floor plans they have, how do they operate, what does their contract look like? Even if you don't have a new construction buyer today, you can go gather that information and then use that information in your marketing to separate you as a new construction specialist, as a knowledgeable about this builder, their floor plans, this community, right? Promote the community. Once you've been out to the site, promote the community and talk about the inventory that they have, or inventory that's coming to the market. You should be thinking about videos, blogs, flyers, social media posts, like walkthrough videos, going Facebook Live if you're out in the community, talking about the community amenities. So often with a new construction site, some builders or developers have a whole plan for where the pool's going to go, where's the rec center's going to go, we're going to have walking trails, we're going to have basketball courts, like all the things that community is going to have. Those amenities sometimes are why people choose different communities. So you want to highlight the amenities, the floor plans, any standing inventory they have, or maybe any incentives that they're offering. So for example, we just got an email, and sometimes I wait until I get an email prompting this, but I got an email last week that I think I forwarded to you, Cindy, was one of our builders was offering like a 4% total commission on anything that was sold. That doesn't help my buyer, but that incentivizes me to go out and find out what they have for sale. Maybe I have a buyer that'd be interested in it, right? Some other builders might be offering some type of incentives that are like, hey, if you write a contract by the end of the month, we're offering $20,000 worth of free upgrades. Or if you use their preferred lender and their preferred title person, you get $20,000 worth of upgrades, right? So you want to investigate, what does it take to get the incentives? Always ask, because sometimes they falsely advertise, oh, we're offering $30,000 worth of upgrades. But then you find out that you have to give your firstborn child a DNA sample in order to get that. You need to know what is required to get those incentives, okay? Getting a list of the included features is really important too, because included features that are a high quality and high caliber mean they don't have to spend as much on upgrades, right? So the base price typically is going to be inclusive of a lot of things that they might not need to spend extra money on at the design center or an upgrade. So the price is the price. A lot of consumers are used to the bait and switch, which means they're used to walking into a model, falling in love with the model, and then learning that the model is full of $80,000 worth of upgrades, and that house that they fell in love with is not in their budget, right? That's what they're used to. So you want to make sure you're presenting it to them that says, hey, I know you fell in love with the model, and guess what? They're really skilled at selling those upgrades, and that's why they put them in the model. But let's look at the included features list. I think their included features is actually pretty good. You don't have to spend 80 grand to make it look like the model. Let's pick and choose some things that might make more sense, that are more affordable, right? The other thing, as an agent, you really should be guiding your client as to which upgrades are most important. Which ones give them the most value in terms of resale? Now, if you're brand new, if you're a newer agent, you're like, how do I find that out? How do I know? Think about your buyers. Where do people spend more money? Like putting in hardwood floors over laminate floors. Tiling in the wet areas is worth more money. Maybe, but here's the thing. They woo you in the design center with these just kind of okay selections that are included sometimes, but the level 3 granite and the level 3 cabinet is what you fell in love with. Well, the level 3 granite and cabinet might be an additional $15,000, right? But if your client has upgrade money to spend, you want to help guide them towards making selections that are going to be the most impactful in the long run, like maybe upgraded doors or the upgraded cabinets. But buyers don't typically pay you for upgraded cabinets. They like them. They sell the house faster. They like the better cabinet, but they don't necessarily give you more money for it, right? So you want to make sure you're helping your buyer choose the upgrades that matter, right? So not throwing all their money into like the upgraded pad under the carpet. Let's choose a better carpet, right? Let's choose better flooring. Let's choose, things that matter. And then the other part is, remember, you want them to call you when this new construction home has met its timeline and they want to sell it. You want to sell it knowing the upgrades that they selected, having a list of all the upgrades they put into the house. That's going to help you on the resale side, right? So take notes. If you attend with your buyer at the selection meeting, take notes on what they upgraded so that you have that in your file for the future. Remember, I'm always thinking 10 years ahead, 5 years ahead. When they relocate or when they buy a bigger house or something like that, I want to have all the detail that I need to help them sell it. And imagine when you go to that listing, you're probably like, hey, I have my notes from when you bought this. These are all the list of upgrades. Have you done anything else since that, right? Have you added things? That's just a pro tip just for you. Understand your role. Don't be the agent that just shows up at closing. So I've been very fortunate that I have a great reputation with a lot of site agents, with a lot of builders all over town. But I have made that reputation by meeting them, introducing myself to them, showing up for all the appointments when I do represent a buyer. There are a lot of agents who just show up for the contract writing, and maybe they show up for selections and then they're never seen again during the process until closing date or the blue tape walkthrough. And I'm just going to let you know, even if that site agent is really easy to work with, even if they're very knowledgeable, even if they're really honest, your client is expecting you to be present as much as possible. And there are a lot more meetings that happen with new construction than with a resale. You have a lot more meetings that they schedule for you. And it's not always easy to make sure that you can be at every one, but if you can, please try to be. Cindy, did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to share that usually when I meet with new construction stuff and I'm with my client, I always ask to be copied on all the correspondence between them.
Yep.
So that I know what's going on at all times.
Good. That's great advice. I agree with that, Cindy. Thanks for sharing that. I agree, because sometimes they'll send your client weekly updates that you don't even know what's going on with the house. So I agree with you. Add me to all the communications so that I can be kept in the loop. The other thing is, if you show up at all the appointments, the builder will start to recognize that you're not like the rest of these agents who just show up for the blue tape walkthrough and to collect your check. You are a part of the building process with them. You are advising your client throughout every stage, and you're going to be there and present for them. Now, I will tell you, it asked, one of the bullets underneath there says, ask the builder to give you a heads up on dates before sharing with the client to make sure that you are available. A lot of these production builders, they have a timeline and you are just on it. You're not in it, you're on it, which means I'm scheduling this selection preview on this day from this time, and then you're going to come back for your selection on this date and your time. There's not options given. They don't ask the buyer, would you like to come in on Tuesday or Thursday? They say on Thursday, this is your appointment. Well, that's hard. If you have a very busy calendar and you want to be present for all your clients' appointments, that's hard for you to do that. So I often ask the builder, listen, before you pick a date, can you please check with me to make sure that I'm available that date before you offer it to the client? Because it makes you look bad if they offer it to the client first and then you say, I can't be there that day, right? So I would rather on the front end say, hey, this is a date that I can't be. Can we try to do something different? Oh, I love that. Brady said, if clients are out of town, I went and took weekly photos and videos to my clients and made them feel like they were present. 100%, I always agree with this because building a new home is exciting and you want to see the progress along the way. But when you live in another state, you haven't moved there yet, you miss out on the progress that they're making. Now, sometimes you could go out there every week and it looks the exact same. They haven't done anything for 4 weeks. They haven't done anything for 6 weeks, but you at least can go out there and keep them, aware of what all has happened, since they can't be there. And I love that. That's also a great tip. So your next step is like to choose the elevation and the lot selection. So I'm going to say that this is kind of right before you go to contract. You're going to find out which elevation is available and which lot would your client like to build on. Now, here's the issue a lot of times is that certain models only fit on certain lots. Certain models only fit on certain lots. And of course, your client wants this very specific model, and they're only building 2 of that model on 2 of the lots, and those lots have lot premiums. So a lot premium is an extra fee that you pay for a very highly desirable lot. It could be one that backs up to green space. It could be one that's in the back of the neighborhood up on a hill. It could be one that backs up to a pond. It could be one that doesn't have a lot of hills. It's a very flat lot. So again, the builders and the developers know what they have. They know which lots are going to be more difficult to sell than others. So sometimes they will add a lot premium to the most desirable lots, which of course is the one your client wants. And that lot premium could be as high as $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, which is a lot. So just keep in mind that not all models and not all elevations, the elevation is what it looks like on the front of the house, right? So in case you don't know, not all elevations, some builders have every elevation planned out in the neighborhood. So if you think about townhomes, a lot of townhomes will have certain elevations for the end units and different elevations that you could put on the interiors. Well, of course, your client wants an end unit that may only be certain floor plans that are used for that end unit, right? So just keep in mind, these are things that you're going to ask when you're doing your research with the builder, which floor plans are available on which lots, because a lot of times they have it mapped out and you're just going to want to know. Oftentimes, a lot of my clients that are interested in new construction, they find a floor plan that they love, they find an elevation that they love, and they find a lot that they love, but the 3 are not married to each other. And unfortunately, that lot's not available until phase 3 or phase 4. That elevation isn't available until the next phase. And you run into brick walls like that. So sometimes your buyer has to make concessions. Well, I really wanted that floor plan and this elevation, but I can't get that. So I guess I have to pick something else, right? Sometimes I just choose not to build at all because of it. But you need to be aware that there may be lot premiums on the lot that your client is interested in. There also may be limitations to which floor plan they could build on that particular lot and which elevation they might have to get, right? So just keep in mind that some of these developers and builders have it planned out to a T. They know exactly which house is going where. It's just who's buying that one. Okay. ask the builder to give you a heads up on dates, like I said. All right, so let's talk about the type of the appointments that exist in new construction. Now, not all of these will have an actual appointment. This is kind of a rough, every builder is different, so just keep in mind this is a rough outline of the order in which things go. Some builders do them. They might do the interior trim before they get to, or the paint might be before the exterior. Don't hold the order that these are in to any, they're all going to differ by the builder. Okay. If you're also looking for collateral material to use with new construction, a lot of these builders have books for their buyers or infographics that talk about their home buying process. They have the order in which they actually build their houses available. Ask them for it. What kind of information do you have about your build process that I could use to advertise and promote the community? Okay. I wanted to mention one more thing before I forget about it, because I'm old and I will forget. The other reason why it's really important I just want to make sure you guys are awake. The other reason it's really important to build rapport with the site agent. A lot of these site agents actually work directly for the builder, and they're not allowed to list other homes outside of what the builder has, right? So what I mean by that is a buyer could walk into that home site, they have a home to sell before they can buy, and I have been the recipient of that referral from the site agent saying they have a home to sell before they can buy with me. I gave them your name and number that you could help them out. And that was because I spent time educating that site agent saying, hey, I'm a listing specialist. If you ever have anybody that has to sell a house first before they can buy here, I'm your girl. I would love to earn your referral business for anybody that you can't help, because some site agents are not able to list other houses other than what's for the builder. Does that make sense? So position yourself in a place where you have the opportunity to help out people who come there to that community. And because you've done so much promoting the community, you've been to the community, you've gathered all the information, you're selling the community, even though you're not the site agent, that site agent is going to want to help that client the best way that they can. And maybe that's connecting you to them. Okay. All right. You definitely will have a contract appointment. Typically, some builders will just fill out the contract and send it to your buyer to sign electronically. Most will actually have an appointment where the buyer comes in and writes up the contract, because there are some selections that they will make at time of contract, like the elevation or the model or the floor plan, something like that, that has to actually be specified. So often there is a contract appointment. Don't miss the contract appointment if you can help it. That's a really important appointment. Okay. So some builders will offer a preview at the design center. Again, that's going to introduce you to the different decisions you have to make. You don't have to make any decisions at the preview. It just lets you touch the samples, look at the samples, maybe see pictures of what it looks like laid. That is the other pro tip I'm going to give you. When it comes to tile, do not just look at the piece of tile that's in the design center. Ask the site rep or the designer, do you have a picture of this installed anywhere? And the prime example of this is last Thursday, this designer showed my buyer this beautiful piece of white tile that just had a tiny little bit of brown running through it. She showed her a picture of it installed, and the boxes of tile actually have huge, wide swirls of brown in it that looks like poop. Like, you would have never picked that if you saw it installed, but that's not what you see on the tile that's in the design center. So anytime you're picking backsplashes, tile for the showers or the floors, ask for a picture of what it looks like installed, because you're going to see something very different than just the 1x1 or the 10x10, 12x12 tile that they show you. And there could be big discrepancies between that one tile and what's in the box. Okay. So I always ask, do you have a picture of it installed? Can we find a picture of it installed somewhere? She would have picked that ugly poop tile if we had not seen it installed. So just be mindful of that. The next one is actually your selection. So at this point, they have to make all their choices: doors, hardware, faucets, the brick color, the grout color, the mortar color. Those are all decisions that a lot of people have never had to make before. So it can be very overwhelming. This builder that I was working with actually gave a buyer a binder that had full color pictures of all their selection options. So that she was able to make a lot of the choices before she even showed up to her preview appointment. They broke down each one of, but you would have to ask the builder, is this something you provide, right? Or does she need to come back and do a second preview appointment? Or is there a way where we can see some of our choices? But that book helped her a lot because she had sticky notes in every section. She had already made choices before she got there. So by the time she shows up next week at her preview or at her selection meeting, she will have already made all of her choices, except for trying to decide on a couple of upgrades, whether or not she wants to spend the money. But making the choices, she'd already done most of the hard work. Okay. I was also grateful that I was at that preview appointment because her selection appointment is while I'm in Dallas and I can't help her there. So going to the preview appointment, I got to actually help her make her selections. I got to have input on it. I also got to warn her about some of the selections she was about to make that didn't match. You know, you picked brushed nickel on this. Have you thought about this? And that's really a designer's job, but you cannot rely on the designers to give them advice on something you're going to be selling in 5 years, right? You need to make sure that you're talking them through. Have you thought about ... right? And, you know, when they're struggling with, man, I really want these doors, but they're $1,100, you know, are the doors going to make a big difference in how they resell the house? Maybe, just depends. Where did they spend the rest of their money? But I was grateful that I got to help her, advise her on a lot of the selection. And I got to do that at the preview because I won't be at the selection meeting. Low voltage is where they're actually going to choose where they want certain outlets. Or where their cable outlets, which walls those go on. Do they need pre-wires for ceiling fans? Do they need pre-wires? You know, is it wired for Cat5 or, you know, internet, all those things? Your low voltage meeting is a typical meeting you would go to where they pull out the blueprints and they try to select. Some builders will not give you the option of where the outlets go. Some just tell you they're every 12 inches or every 12 feet or something like that. You have one per wall, something like that, but they can't tell you if the outlet's going to be above the desk or below the desk. They just know it's somewhere on that wall, which is kind of frustrating sometimes to a buyer who's very particular. So I had one who was an attorney who built a townhouse in Nashville with Goodall. So they're a great builder, but she works from home. So she was doing a lot of hybrid working from home, and her floor plan included a desk. And of course, she wanted to know if the outlet was going to be above the desk or below the desk. And they just can't tell you that information. It just depends on where the electrician puts it sometimes. So that's really kind of annoying. But that's just one of your appointments that you might have as low voltage. The site prep is not really an appointment, but that's the next step, is preparing for laying the foundation, preparing the lot to make sure. Now, site prep can be very expensive. There might be added costs for site prep if the lot is actually very hilly or it's on a slope, or if they actually have to bring in extra dirt to prep the site for this floor plan that they selected. Do they need to knock down trees? If you're doing a custom build versus a track home or a spec home, a custom build, this is where your buyer might incur extra costs. So keep that in mind. The lot that they selected might incur extra costs for site prep, meaning there might be trees that have to be taken down. They might have to bring in more dirt. They might have to level out something. They might have to build up. You know, this is the other thing that's very common in new construction is how many steps am I going to have going into my house? Often the builder can't tell you that until it's too late. You know, they're going to require 5 steps. Well, I don't want 5 steps. I only wanted 1. That's what the model had. Well, the lot you selected doesn't allow for that, right? And they don't know that sometimes until they get in and start doing the site prep. So be aware, if you have a very persnickety buyer, and I have had my fair share, if that is something that bothers them or worries them, that is not something the builder can guarantee. And you want a happy buyer. So what you don't want to happen is your buyer go under contract, they're building their dream home, and they find out that they had to have 12 steps to get into their front door. They might be pissed, right? Brandy, we're going to say something? Share it, girl.
I do. I think why it's also so important to be an advocate for a new home seller is, so you're talking about the lots, and so, sometimes you get in, not always, probably more likely, we happen to get in with somebody who didn't mark the lots correctly.
Right.
And we got on a lot, and then she comes back to us 2 weeks later and says, oh, well, this lot is $5,000 more. We're already in a contract.
Right.
So what I did is I negotiated on their part was, I'm like, okay, well, you're going to make this up to us. And there was not knobs that were going to be installed in the home. So I said, we'll pay the $5,000 as long as you put knobs in the home.
Right.
So you got to be an advocate. Doesn't always work.
Right.
But,
but you
think
can
outside
try.
the box.
Yeah.
Try to work best for your buyers. Yeah.
No, that's great advice. And I agree with that. One of the things that I learned in selling new construction is that the builder's in charge. First and foremost, they're in charge. They don't care.
Yeah.
If your buyer does not want this house, they will turn around and sell it to somebody else. And if you think threatening to walk away is going to make them play ball, it isn't. They don't care.
No.
And they will sell it. But we have to try. We have to show our clients that we are looking out for their best interest and that we are trying to advocate for them, that we're trying to negotiate on their behalf, right? But often we're going to get hit with a brick wall that says, this is just how it is. And I'm sorry it happened. A lot of times they do not own up to their responsibility of not tagging the lot that was supposed to be with a lot premium. They just say, I'm sorry, this is how it is. So you've got to be creative. Like she said, thinking outside the box. What else can I do? I just want you to understand that if you have a persnickety client that cannot have stairs for mobility issues or whatever, that is something you need to talk about well before contract and make sure that is an issue, that they're selecting a lot that would likely have less site prep that would require steps if that's important, right? But you have to get to know your client and what's important to them. But a lot of things the builder cannot guarantee, and they won't write it in the contract until it's too late, until you're in. Okay. Staking out the foundation, they're going to obviously stake out the foundation. That's an exciting day for buyers a lot of times if they get to be present during that time, because they're actually seeing progress made and they're actually putting the stakes in the ground to where the footprint of their house is going to sit on the lot. So especially if this is custom, the lot and where the house sits on the lot, your buyer gets to have some input about how far back sometimes it's already set. If it's like that 0.13 of an acre, it's going where it's going. You're not going to get to choose where it goes. But if you have a larger lot and it's custom, you're going to get to help stake out where that goes. And that's an exciting part. The framing is really kind of funny. It shows up one day and the next thing you know, it's up. Framing happens very quickly. The framing package gets delivered to the lot. And then the next thing you know, you come back a week later and the whole darn thing is framed, which is great. I like to walk through when it's framed because there are mistakes made at framing a lot of times where they forgot a closet. They forgot, an opening that was supposed to be a hallway. Guys, we are dealing with a shortage of qualified vendors, qualified tradesmen. And there used to be a lot of oversight. There used to be a lot of project managers. There used to be people that oversaw the project to the detail that they would catch things like that. And I'm sorry, we don't have that in my experience. You have to actually walk through and make sure that it's not incorrect. I have buyers who are also very persnickety. That's going to be the word of the day, that are kind of control freaks. And there are some builders who have rules about whether or not you can be on the job site, how often you can be on the job site. Some say you can't visit the site more than 2 times. Some say you can, as long as you have a hard hat, you can be on site anytime you want. Some of my buyers have caught some major mistakes because they went out and walked the property, walked it during the framing section or walked it during drywall and caught things that a superintendent should have caught, but they didn't. And my buyer did, right? So you should understand what the policy is for visiting the site and make sure that your client understands it and knows what they can and cannot do. But your buyer knows that house better than you and I do. Trust me, they've dreamed about it. They've looked all over the floor plan. They have, perseverated on it. And now, they know when something is wrong, I promise you. The shingling of the roof, obviously, that's not an appointment that you have to go to, but that's just part of the process. The plumbing, electrical, and HVAC, there's also going to be inspections along the way in each one of these in some of these phases. So once mechanical, and we call that mechanical, the plumbing, electrical, and HVAC, once that is installed, often they will have to undergo plumbing inspection, electrical inspection, HVAC inspection. And so you just want to keep posted on, did they pass? Were there problems? Does it need to be remedied? The insulation, pre-drywall or drywall. Sometimes the pre-drywall meeting does occur with the buyer. So they actually walk through the framed building with the client before the drywall is hung and made sure that things look the way they're supposed to. Not all builders do that, but a lot do. The exterior finishing. So is the brick going up? Is the block going up? Is there, stone going up? Is it the right color? Did they order the wrong door? A lot of things happen in this phase that you'd be amazed how much is wrong on the exterior part. Like they didn't look at the elevation and they sent all brick, but there's actually stone and brick. So you just need to pay attention. Interior trim is going to be basically your cabinets, your any of your moldings, things like that. There's not always an appointment for that. Exterior walkways, same thing. Paint. You want to remind your clients that builder grade paint is the pits. It's awful. It is not even something you can wipe down with a rag, usually. It is not something that's easily washable. Most builders charge an upgrade for more durable paint. And then, of course, they want you to pay extra for the paint that actually lasts more than one wiping. So just be advised, you may want to tell your buyers that, hey, you might want to do aftermarket painting with a higher quality paint. And that is the thing. Your builder, there are a lot of things you don't want to do aftermarket. You want to do at time of construction. And then there are other things that you want to look at and say, is this something that I can do later at my own expense? Like painting is one of those things, let them pick all their paint colors for their various rooms after market, because your builder is really that's a huge markup for the builder is in terms of paint. But the paint that comes in your new construction house is crap, promise you. It's not high quality, not typically. Flooring and countertops, lighting fixtures and mechanical trim. Light fixtures is another big one that the builder is basically a moneymaker for the builder. But most of the light fixtures that the builder offers you are also ugly. So your buyer may want to choose light fixtures that are aftermarket. Same thing with mirrors. Most of my buyers today tell the builder, don't install the mirrors. I don't want the big piece of mirror. I'll just get my own mirrors framed. And that's perfectly fine. But just know that mirrors and lighting fixtures are big ones that they try to make money off of. Landscaping is another big one. You should prep your buyer and you should ask at the beginning when you were doing your investigation, do they sod or do they just seed and straw? And do they seed and straw the back and sod the front? Do they sod both the front and the back? Or is the whole property seeded in straw? Because here's what I want you to know about seed and straw. The wind is going to blow, the rains are going to fall, and that grass seed is going to be gone. The birds are going to eat it. The netting that they put down is going to be all balled up. And your clients are not going to have grass. They're going to have mud. And that's going to be a problem in their brand new construction home. So sod is definitely an area that you may want to do aftermarket. If the builder only seeds and straws, you may want to recommend to them to maybe do some sod, especially if they're going to be in town to water it. Don't get them to get sod and then they're not here for a month. It'll all be dead, right? I know these are funny things y'all laugh at, but these are the dumb things that people do that I just want to make sure you are aware of. If you get sod, it has to be watered daily, sometimes twice a day, right? So don't get sod in a house that nobody's going to move into for 3 months, right? But often, here's another part where as an agent, I've had to advocate for my clients. The builder did seed in straw, but the seed has all been washed away. It blew away. There is no straw on the ground. It is all mud. Advocate for your client. Is this how you want to turn the house over to my client, right? Does there need to be more seed and straw laid down? Does it need extra, dirt in the back, whatever it is, but advocate for them before closing on the landscaping. You are going to do a blue tape walkthrough with your client. Oh, Kim just said she just moved into new construction and the pain is real. I bet, Kim. I can only imagine. And I'm going to get to remind me if I forget and I get off tangent, remind me to come back to what I was going to tell you about the pain of building new construction. Okay. Because I know I'll forget, but just remind me. Kim's good about that. You are going to get an opportunity to do a blue tape walkthrough. You should show up with your own roll of blue tape and a stick. And I say a stick because you can't reach some of the ceilings that need touch up. And so sometimes a long pole with a stick, you can put the blue tape on the ceiling so that they don't forget it. But what your job is during the blue tape walkthrough is to find flaws that need to be remedied. If it's missing a cabinet door, if it's, typically your blue tape is for a lot of touch-up paint. That is the biggest thing you find in your blue tape walkthrough. But you may come across things that are, a piece of trim is missing. This wasn't grouted properly. It needs silicone along the shower, caulk, something like that around the windows. But blue tape, anything and everything that you think needs to be remedied by the builder prior to your final walkthrough. Some of these builders will have their own home orientation appointment. And this is where they're going to walk your buyer through everything they need to know about their house, where the water shutoff is, where the electrical panel is, where their filters are, all the upgrades that they selected, they're pointing out to them, all those things. Their home orientation is typically done by the builder and the superintendent, somebody who represents the builder that's going to do like a final walkthrough or home orientation with your buyer. Don't miss that appointment, okay? If you can. Kim, I'm going to get back to what I told you to remind me of. So here's the pain with new construction. And this goes way back to the beginning. I should have said in the very beginning when you talk with your buyer about building new construction. People build new construction homes and expect their home to be perfect because it's brand new. Homes are built by humans with hands. They make mistakes. Things are imperfect. There are a lot of things that can be remedied and they can be made to be prettier. But a lot of the things are not perfect because they're built by humans of different skill sets. And if you take the time to explain to your buyer on the front end, we are looking for a beautiful product. We're looking for craftsman quality craftsmanship. And we want it to look exactly how they presented it to you in the model. So you have expectations. But when your buyer starts doing that blue tape walkthrough, you're going to see that some buyers are going to be nitpicky on the littlest thing that is caused by human error. It is something that that probably can't be fixed or something that can't be remedied, and your buyer's just going to have to accept it. And I'm just telling you on the very front end in this process, you need to make sure you explain to your buyer that this is built by human hands and humans make mistakes. And although it's brand new, we need to disassociate brand new from perfection because perfection does not always exist in new construction. But buyers think it does because it's brand new, right? Especially if it's custom built. It should be perfect, right? Because I spent all this money. Well, that's not how trades operate. So I just wanted you to know that the pain of building new construction is that you often think it's going to be perfect because it's brand new and beautiful. It doesn't make it perfect. It makes it new, right? So keep that in mind. Am I on target there, Kim? Somewhat? Yeah. Okay.
Totally.
Yeah. Because when you go to that blue tape walkthrough, you're now looking for imperfections at the blue tape walkthrough, right? You are purposely looking for them. And so a lot of buyers will go down a rabbit hole of let me find every imperfection I can, which then guess what it does? It makes them unhappy with their house. They start to question the quality of the house because you're looking for imperfection. So just like on my home inspection, I am setting the stage for my buyer prior to that blue tape walkthrough that says, here's what we're looking for. We are mostly concerned with areas that need touch-up paint or things that were done incorrectly, things that might need an extra coat of something that might need tightened down. something, but at this point in the stage, the construction is complete, right? Now we're just doing minor punch list items. And when you set the stage for that, now they're not nitpicking the house in every little nick. I've had buyers that wanted all the doors repainted in the house because there was one nick at the bottom of the door. Like, that's not what we're going for. We're going for reasonable things that can be remedied at the time of the blue tape walkthrough. And your job is not, and I warn them, your job is not to find every flaw you can in this house, because I want you to love your house, right? You're looking at it with an eye of what needs to be finished before I close, not every little thing that could possibly be wrong with it. Does that make sense? There's a big distinction there. If you want your client happy, don't put them under the magnifying glass overviewing every corner of this house, or they will be upset. I promise you, because there is no perfectly made constructed house. There's going to be issues. You guys do, in your investigation process, you do need to understand how much the HOA fees are going to be and what does it include. Sometimes in the very beginning stage of the construction, they don't know that yet. But often the very first buyer of the house is starting the HOA like their bank. So there will be like a capital contribution typically of every owner in the neighborhood when they build the houses to get the HOA's money started so that they have reserves. Sometimes you don't know what that is, though, until the HOA is established, and that might not be for 3 or 4 more phases. So you need to you make sure you're prepping your buyer to know that when the HOA gets started, they may be asking you for $500 or $1,000 to start the HOA and their capital contributions. Does that make sense? Just be prepared that you don't always know what the HOA fees are going to be due. I had a custom buyer once that was interested in a property that they had no idea what the HOA fees were going to be. Well, that's kind of problematic. You know, they could be $700, they could be $1,200, they could be, you know, that's not a number that you just are okay with without having an estimate of what those HOA fees are going to be. So if your builder says we have no idea what they're going to be, that's a red flag for me. You should have an idea based on what the amenities are, what the HOA is going to cover, to give you some idea about what the fee is going to be. But if a builder tells you we don't know, and they're trying to tell you that landscaping is included, the roofs are included, all the exterior lighting is included, and they don't know what the HOA covers, get out. Just run. And when they get their information together, call me and I'll come back, right? But don't put up with that, because that's going to be a surprise to your buyer. That's not fair to your buyer, okay? There is going to be something that's issued. I'm almost done. Y'all are sticking in with me. I know this is kind of boring, but it's important. There is going to be what's called a certificate of occupancy. And every municipality across the country will not allow you to move into a new construction house without it passing certain inspections. So mechanical inspections, your HVAC, your electrical, plumbing, all of those inspections all go towards the certificate of occupancy. When they have passed all their inspections, the city or the county issues them a certificate of occupancy, and now your buyer can close and move into your house. In my career, this certificate of occupancy, also known as a CO, has held up closings probably 45 times in my career, because it comes down to the last minute sometimes that CO is not issued on the day of closing. And if that happens, it will ultimately depend on your lender. If your lender will allow them to close without the CO, knowing that the CO might come within 48 hours or whatever it is, or if your lender will not allow it to close without the CO, you're going to have to postpone your closing, right? You need to prepare your buyers. And this is the best piece of advice I can give you. This is pro tip number 3. You need to prepare your buyers that the approximate closing date that this builder gives is not set in stone. It is not a true and hard date that they can put on their calendar in red ink, because all kinds of things can delay construction. Weather, materials, suppliers, vendors, Even your tradesmen being on a different job. My electrician couldn't come back for 6 weeks because he was on a different job. All kinds of things impact your closing date. And even though the builder says our approximate closing date is 7 months, it could be 9. I had a new construction buyer with Dalamar Homes, if you've ever heard of them. Run, don't build a house with them. And I know that's terrible. I'll probably get sued for saying this because it's going on YouTube, but I'm just telling you, have you ever gone to a blue tape walkthrough and X'd out the entire wall of a house because the wall was going like this? I have. And it was this particular builder. It took my buyers 2 years to get that house built. 2 years. They never even moved into it. I stuck a for sale sign in it the afternoon that we closed. But it took them 2 years. So my point to you, yeah, exactly. My point to you is I want you to make sure you're informing your buyer that that date is not a hard date, that they need to be flexible. If they have sold their house to get into this new construction home, you need to warn them. They need a place to live. If that CO is delayed, if weather is delayed, if some tradesman doesn't show up, whatever it is, you need to make sure you have talked them through their options of where can they live if they sell this house before we get a CO. And make sure that they understand, do not make arrangements to have everything on a moving truck the day of closing until you have a pretty solid idea that it's going to close that day. Because your buyers are going to be stuck on a moving truck with nowhere to live. And it could happen. It will happen. I promise you. You're not in control of the CO. And the CO is the last step that is required in order for the lender to give their money. And they will not let them move in without it. The other thing you need to know about new construction, and this is just my experience, correct me if I'm wrong for those of you that have experience, your buyer will not get keys until it funds. That's how builders operate. So that means a lot of times if you close on a Friday, don't pick 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday for closing. Because your lender may not fund it until Monday, which means your buyers are going to be stuck in a moving truck until Monday or at a hotel. So I never picked Friday closings for that reason, period. I've learned way too hard the hard way. But I will tell you that most builders will not give you keys until you have funded the loan. Okay. So just be aware of that. Make sure you're educating your buyers about what to expect. It's not like resale where you can just talk to the listing agent and say, hey, they signed their docs. The title company has their wire. Can we go ahead and get the keys and I'll hold on to it until after closing? And they say, sure. No, they will not give you the keys. Now, I had a buyer in Murfreesboro that on Fridays, that builder closes at 2 o'clock. That's real helpful. So they closed, their loan funded. There was nowhere to pick up keys because the office was closed. Luckily for me, I knew they closed at 2 o'clock, so I made arrangements to pick up the keys in advance. But if you don't know that, my buyer would have been stuck, right? So you need to make sure you're talking through with the builder's rep. How are we getting keys and what is your process to release the keys of giving them occupancy, okay? Even if that builder gives you the key that you put in the lock and it resets the lock and no other contractors can get in there, I highly advise you to tell your buyers to change the locks because the tradesmen all have master keys that will work even after that key is tumbled, after the lock mechanism is tumbled. So change the locks first and foremost, okay? A couple more things. People always ask me, when do I get an inspection with new construction? And this is really a buyer's preference. I typically like to do 2 inspections on a new construction house. One, once it's finished with drywall and like almost ready to close, like right before the blue tape walkthrough, so that the superintendent can fix any items that need repairing prior to our final walkthrough. I also do another inspection almost at the end of their 1-year warranty. So like 9 months or 10 months into their warranty. Because that way they can use their warranty to fix anything else that has come up in an inspection. Some of my buyers choose not to do an inspection during the new construction process at all, and they just wait to do it later after closing sometime in that 1-year warranty time frame. It's really a buyer's preference. But I have found, and I use an inspector that has thermal imaging. I have found walls that had no insulation. I had plumbing that actually leaked into the crawl space that wasn't capped off. I have found all kinds of things that would have been really detrimental to my buyer had they not done an inspection. And they passed all their codes exams, they passed all their mechanical inspections. But these are the things that your home inspector is going to find. Okay. I'm really scaring you guys into telling. What, Dana?
Laura, when did you say you did the first one?
I do the first one right before the blue tape walkthrough. So when it's pretty much ready to go, all mechanicals are connected so that they can test the HVAC and the appliances. And then I do another one 9-10 months into their warranty. And a lot of times my same inspector will go back for that second inspection and won't charge a full inspection fee, just charges them like a revisit fee. It just depends on who you use. The last one is the warranty. Your buyer is going to get a warranty from the builder. It's required in most states that they provide them with a home buyer's warranty at least for 1 year. There's going to be longer warranties on certain things, like their mechanicals might have 10-year warranties, structural might be, 10 years, their roof might be warranted for a certain amount of time, things like that. But they typically always get a 1-year warranty. You're going to want to review a copy of the warranty. The buyer's going to sign it at closing. You want to make sure that your buyer knows the process for how to make a warranty claim. When they find something that comes up that is warranty related, what is the process with that builder to file a warranty claim? Some of them have an in-house number to call. Some of them you call the 800 number on the warranty. Your buyer needs to know what things are covered under my warranty and what things are not. Okay. That's your role in helping them understand that. Okay. To wrap up here, the bottom line that you need to know is that building new construction, it is an efficient process. You may not think it. If you visit a job site, you don't see any changes happening, but it's actually a very streamlined process, especially if they're a production builder and they build 300 home communities all over the country. They have the process streamlined and it's pretty efficient. The goal is to have quality construction. Now, it is a personal preference about whether or not you prefer an older home or new construction. I like the quality craftsmanship of an older home. I feel like they were built more solid than what we're building today, but it is a personal preference. I have some buyers who have never lived in a home owned by somebody else. They've always built their houses. So some people, that's what they prefer. It should be sustainable, and it should be safe. And then the other thing is people choose to build new construction because they want modern amenities. So they want modern fixtures, modern design, modern amenities. They also want energy efficiency. So a lot of these builders today have energy efficient rated appliances, energy efficient rated windows and doors, especially if you live on the coast. A lot of these builders have hurricane rated, screens and shutters and things like that, which are really helpful. And then the other part is you get to customize it. You get to make it your own. You get to pick all those finishes and choose what you want in it. You get to choose how you want it to look, what the finished product looks like, and get to customize it per your taste instead of just what someone else built. That's the beautiful thing about new construction. You can pick your own paint color, you can pick your own granite, you can pick your own flooring. It could look like a turd at the end of the day, but you get to choose it, right? Hopefully you have given them enough input that it's not going to look like a turd. My advice to you is if you want more information about, I have one more thing to show you too. I have an infographic that I kind of put together that's called the new construction process. And it just has all of those different stages of new construction that you could just kind of walk your clients through. You may want to create something similar. I'm happy to share it in the group so you guys have it as a reference, then you can make it yourself all pretty or whatever. But the big thing is I want you, if you want to sell more new construction, the way you go about doing that is familiarizing yourself with the communities around you, introducing yourself to the builder and building rapport, learning about what their process is, what their contract says, how they go about building properties, and basically show up for as many appointments as you possibly can. Be part of the process. Like Brandy said, if your buyer's not local, take pictures and video for them along the way so they feel like they're a part of the process. They know what's going on. They will be very grateful that you included them in a process that they can't be present for. And then the other part is just make sure you're doing a lot of due diligence and asking a lot of questions, and figuring out a way that you can insert your value in this process. If you want to increase your new construction business, you've got to start promoting yourself as a new construction expert or someone that can help you navigate the new construction process. You shouldn't go it alone. You need help. And remember that collateral material. Here's why you need an agent, right? To help you with new construction. Now, I will tell you guys, a lot of the information I gave to you today is more about track houses or spec houses or with a production builder. Custom building is a little different. You know, they're going to select the floor plan and actually maybe meet with an architect to draw out the floor plan. It's definitely a much more expensive process. They actually make a lot more selections on the custom side than they do on spec houses. I mean, they have to pick everything down to the last detail. So custom building is a little different. In our industry, a lot of times when a buyer wants to build with a custom builder, we're really doing a handoff to the builder. And the builder's going to pay us a fee, but we're not as involved with the custom build as we are with some of the other. But you can be, and you should be. Insert yourself wherever you can. All right. Anybody have any comments or questions? Was this helpful to you? Did you learn something about new construction? Do you feel like you can go out there and better represent a buyer in new construction now? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay.
Yes, I have one more question.
Okay.
The certificate of occupancy, who did you say issues that? The city?
You might have to repeat that question for me. I'm so sorry. I didn't hear it.
Okay, the certificate of occupancy.
Yes.
Who did you say issues that?
Oh, the municipality or the county issues that. So if you're in Murfreesboro, then typically Rutherford County is gonna, issue it to whatever county is in charge of building permits, and they're the ones who are going to issue the certificate of occupancy. Now, I've also worked with some builders who had the CO 2 weeks before closing. So not all of them are nightmares that come down to the wire, but I am always a planner for the worst case scenario. And then I jump for joy and do cartwheels when it's not the worst case, right? I just want you to be prepared that I've had to go to a Mexican restaurant and sit there for 4 hours or 6 hours waiting on a certificate of occupancy just so we can go to the closing table. And the people had their stuff in a U-Haul. I mean, it was really terrible having to go drink margaritas while I waited, but it could happen, and you need to prepare and you need to plan. Okay. Any other questions for me? No? So my advice to you, again, I'm not going to leave you without a challenge, which is pick one new construction community in your area. Pick one. Go visit. Go tour the models. Go gather the floor plans. Talk to the site agent. Then I want you to promote the community on your social media. I want you to promote why someone needs an agent in building a new construction house. I want you to promote the incentives that the builder is offering. Like, hey, you can get $30,000 worth of upgrades if you build with this particular builder. Okay. But you've got to take action with the information that you just learned in order to get a client from it. You can't just store it all away in your little file box for when I need it. Now you've learned the process. You learn more about what to expect. Go get the information, promote, and keep promoting it. And you will find some new construction buyers that want to build houses with you. The only downfall we did not talk about is that the new construction process is typically 6 to 8 months. Could be 9 to 12. That's a long time to wait for a paycheck, right? But imagine if you had 5 people under contract that are all going to close next year. That's money you already know is coming, right? It should be a mixture of new construction, resale, and listing, right? But you guys have got to go take the information now and take action on it and go do something to pick up new construction buyers. You can't just file it away. Y'all with me? Okay. Y'all go out and kill it. Next week, we are doing Realtor RPR. I am teaching you all the different reports and all the crazy things that Realtor RPR can do and help you with. You all have access to it for free in your National Association of Realtor dues. And I'm going to show you what all that thing can do. Okay. Yes, some builders, Dana asks, are the builders still offering less commission? Some are. Most of them are actually coming up and are paying again. Remember, they forgot who we were for about 2 years, 3 years. They were like, we don't need you. And now they're begging us. They're hosting happy hours. They're hosting previews. They're hosting kinds of things to get us to come back out there. They need us again because their inventory is sitting. Here's the one thing I want you to remember. What they offer is not necessarily what the fee is that you collect. If that builder is only paying you X percent, and I just won't say a percentage number, if that builder is only willing to pay you X percent, but your fee is normally Y percent, your buyer can pay the difference. And we charge our buyers our full fee. So on my team, we do, if we can. So just because the builder is only willing to pay you, be careful too, because a lot of these builders, they only pay based on the base price, not all the upgrades, right? So they'll say your commission is based on the base price, and then your buyer goes and adds $50,000 worth of upgrades. You're not getting paid on that 50 grand. You're only getting paid on the base. So keep that in mind and be aware of that, okay? And if your client owes you more money, that's a conversation you have at the beginning, right? Just so you know, my professional services fee is X percent. A lot of builders, if you choose to build new construction, only want to pay me Y. So if that's the case and you do decide you want to buy one of those, then here's the difference that you would be expected to pay. And if you tell them that up front, there's less of an issue. Don't wait until it's closing and then be bitter that you didn't get paid your full fee. That's your fault. You didn't talk about it on the beginning and you didn't negotiate for your own money. Now that's what you get. So don't be mad. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit, right? All right. Y'all are laughing at me, but I'm just telling you, some of y'all get mad that you don't ask for your full fee and then you get pissed when you get your paycheck, but that was on you. You didn't fight for yourself. You gave away your money. You didn't think twice about it until it came time to get paid and then you're pissed. No, if you give up your money, you do it willingly and freely because you have decided that's what you want that person to pay your fee, right? But if you're bitter about it, then that person doesn't get a discount because you are not going to be bitter about giving somebody a discount, right? You're going to fight for your money. You're going to advocate for your own money. That's right, girl. Claire's like, yeah. All right. Y'all go out and kill it. Go investigate a new construction site. Fight for yourselves. Fight for your clients. Earn the business. Insert your value where it's needed. Educate people about why they need an agent with new construction. Even that lady I went with last week to do her selection, she told me she didn't need an agent. The last house that she built by herself with the site agent. She didn't need me. And I had to educate her. Well, let me tell you why you might need me. Then she had no problem hiring me. But it was just a conversation. You need to make sure everybody understands why they need an agent in new construction. What could go wrong? And remember, that site agent doesn't work for you. They work for the builder. And their job is to save the builder money and make the builder money. Right? Present it that way. So go promote yourselves. Go gather some information about new construction. And I can't wait to hear who's got some new construction buyers coming down the pipeline. Okay? I'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel for Realtor RPR. Okay? Go get them, y'all.